Next in the blue, I have, well, next in the blue, I had Allen. I'm still picking him to win 6 games, but I think he needs to work out his quarterback situation. I know he needs to work out his quarterback situation. I don't think Kevin Kolb is who you want to be starting all year, and he needs to get a backup quarterback. So, um, yeah, I have Allen though at 6-7 and barely making the playoffs this year. Also, um, I think LaShawn McCoy and Steven Jackson are going to be a monster running back duo. I think that's going to be a really one of those undervalued. They're not going to be looked at as flashy as maybe Devin's running back duo, but I think they're going to be maybe just as productive, and if not just as, almost as productive. Coach Osinko's really ready to have a monster season. He's going to be in that honeymoon period this year. I really hope he does well. Um, and I think the Lions defense is going to really surprise some people for him and get him some crazy good sack numbers. And once those defensive ends in Detroit start showing how fast they are, they're going to rush throws out of the quarterback, and they're going to allow the defensive backfield in Detroit to really wreak some havoc and get a lot of turnovers. I think the Lions defense is going to be a tremendously valuable pick for Allen. I think he's going to sneak into the playoffs with a 6-7 year. Next in uh, next in the blue division, I have myself Tim Tebow's jockstrap, Stephen Ulrich. I'm predicting myself to tie, but ultimately lose the tiebreaker with Jesse at a final record of 8-5. I think I have a good team everywhere except for maybe running back. I think Noshawn Marino, I think, might be hurt a little bit this year by the addition of Willis McGahee to the Broncos. I think that's going to hurt his fantasy value. I think it's going to help him on the field, but I think it's going to hurt his fantasy value. And he'll have some good games, but I'm just not sold at this point on Noshawn Marino being what I need him to be. I think Ray Rice is going to be a beast. I think Mike Vick is in really great shape to have another fantastic season. I've got Tony Romo and Ben Roethlisberger, who are both available for trade, mind you all. If you have something to offer, I'm looking for wide receivers and running backs. I'm ready to have a good season, but with my team as it's currently constructed, I think Lee Evans is going to be a really valuable pick for me. I think he's going to start to mesh quickly with Joe Flacco in Baltimore, and I think A.J. Green could have, I think, depending on the offensive line in Cincinnati and Andy Dalton's productiveness, I think A.J. Green he has the talent to have a Randy Moss type rookie season. I think he could just go off and go crazy. All in all, I have an 8-win team, which is good enough to get in the playoffs, and then, by that time, you go for it. At that point, you see what happens. And I have also at 8-5, winning the division, pains me as it does to say it, Jesse Dubiel. Great draft, Jesse. I mean, you lost Aaron Rodgers, but you turned it into a great wide receiving core. You grabbed yourself up Phil Rivers, Roddy White, Mike Wallace, Deshaun Jackson. That's going to be a big play wide receiving core. Running backs, this is why I didn't give you the 9-4. I didn't out and out, give you the division without any sort of ties or anything like that. I think your running back core needs work. I think Jesse needs to work the waiver wire, the trades, and get himself a bolstered running back core to have the complete team that he's always sought after, so that one big injury isn't going to kill his team. He's poised for a great season, and he's ready to go to the playoffs. Next thing I'm going to do is, this is what most of the Steve Shack episodes are going to look like. I'm just going to give you a recap of last week, and I'm going to give you a preview of this week. And, fire in there whatever quippy metaphors and smarmy one-liners I can. This week, we've got some pretty good games. We've got the first and only Doobie Bowl of the season, but it doesn't even get my game of the week. But the Doobie Bowl, I think, is going to be good. It's going to hopefully, for both teams, get them off on the right foot, and it's always fun to see the Doobies go at it. Anyway, The Doobie Bowl, I'm going to give the slight edge to Jesse. Well, no, not slight. I give a large edge to Jesse, and I think he's going to end up handling the game just fine. Between Kevin and Hedgie, um, yeah, just because of his wide receiving core, really, I'm going to give the slight edge to Hedgie. I think Hedgie's going to pull away with it because he's got more strength out of the running back and wide receiver positions. A pretty good game between Devin and Justin. Quarterback matchup there of Tom Brady versus Matty Ice Ryan, I think is a good one. Peyton Hillis and Jamal Charles versus Michael Turner and Adrian Peterson on the running back side, not so much of a contest. That goes hands down to Devin. The wide receiving core, I think, also goes hands down to Devin. So if you've got a push on the quarterback side of the house and the running backs and wide receivers go definitely to one side, you got to go with the guy with the running backs and wide receivers because that's 5 roster spots that are getting you points. So I got Devin handily taking care of business against Justin's Gas Station Commandos. In my own game against Allen, I think the T-Bonators are going to fare just fine against Roy's boys. I'm sorry, Roy's boys. Mr. Roy likes boys. Really tough call. This is probably the closest game of the week in my opinion, with the exception of the GOT dubs. Michael Vick, I give myself the edge on quarterback. I give the narrow edge to Allen on running backs. Push on the wide receiver. My heart says I win. My mind says I have no idea, and if I were a betting man, I wouldn't bet on this game. Should be a really exciting game. And the game of the week, the GOT dubs, as I'm calling it henceforth, is between the two big spenders this off season, Brent and Mike. The quarterbacks came out as advertised on opening night. Does anybody else think that was really awesome that the two prized off-season acquisitions were battling it out week 1 opening freaking night? I don't know. I found some just beauty in that. It's one of the things I love about our league. It's just how art mirrors life. I thought it was just fantastic to see Aaron Rodgers versus Drew Brees, the two guys that the two owners sold their proverbial souls to go out and get because they felt that was their ticket to a championship. So that's a push on the quarterback side of the house, and now that they played, it was 27-29 points. I mean, 2 points edge goes to Drew Brees, but really that's almost a push. Rashard Mendenhall and Ahmad Bradshaw on BG side, Run DMC and LeGarrette Blunt as of right now are starting on Mike's. I give slight edge to Mike on that one because I think Run DMC, I hate to say it, I think he's going to run all over the Broncos and really help out Mike. Wide receiver side, I'm going to call that for BG by a narrow margin because he's got Andre Johnson. I think Anquan Bolden's going to have a nice week 1, eating up those possession yards in the middle against Pittsburgh. The defense and special teams, I guess I have to give the edge to BG because I already know the Saints have only scored 2 points. That'll be tough for Mike to overcome, but I think he will. I think Mike wins this game by a narrow margin, and that's all I got for this week. Next week we'll come back. We'll see how I did on last week's predictions. I'm going to make next week's predictions. I'll give a waiver wire update in talk a little bit about how week 1 went for the NFL as well as the DFL. Hope everybody didn't mind suffering through. Even after post, this might end up being 20 minutes or more. But hope we had fun. Have a nice day. See you next week.